All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. Jen Perga here, Mark Izzy.
Here.
John Wiarda.
Here.
Willie Platt.
Here.
Renata Waldron.
Here.
Amanda Hill.
Here.
And then we also have Town Manager Josh Kelly, Pam Columbi, and Michael Stankov.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, good. So I just thought we could maybe go around and introduce ourselves.
That'd be great. Would you like to begin?
Of course. Sure. So I'm Jen Perga. I started on the commission many years, like 10, 12 years ago. I'd love for someone else to take the chair. And I'm glad it's meeting again.
I'm Willie Platt. Lived in Winchester since 1976. I'm on planning and zoning. I'm on Highland Lake Watershed Board of Directors. And I was on the Energy Commission before this one was started.
Oh, are we going to go clockwise now? We can do that. So, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Stankov. I am the town's inland wetlands agent and potentially going to be serving as staff for the Conservation Commission. I'm hopeful about that. I started about 2 months ago here full time just last week. I have a background in conservation biology. I have a master's degree in that, and I served as a conservation commissioner for 3 years in Watershed, Connecticut. So I'm hoping that I can help you guys improve your town, and you guys can give me lots of tasks to do that will help me achieve your vision.
My name is Amanda Hill. I've lived in Winchester for 13 years. I've also been employed by Bombardier for 13 years, where I was the founder and co-chair of our eco-friendly, it was called the Be Green team. Sorry, I'm not good at public speaking. In a mask especially. Where we did quarterly fundraising events and just eco-awareness opportunities for the employees, which was about 300 people.
Yes, John Wiarda, and I've been on the Energy Commission for probably, I don't know, since 2007 or whenever. But anyway, I've been in town here since 1965, so I don't live on the lake, but I live near the lake. So I appreciate its waters and everything else. My biggest claim right now is I've gotten 4 charging stations in town, 2 at the Old Bank of America, and 2 of them up at the new healthcare facility on South Main Street through the good deeds of Hartford Healthcare. One of them was being used today when I went by. There was nothing over at the Bank of America, but that doesn't mean they're not being used, because just about any day during the week they will be used, and they have been used since probably the last year so far. So that's it.
Hi, Renata Waldron. I'm new to the commission and happy to be here. I am a teacher for Torrington Public Schools. I've been there for about 20 years. And I've lived in Winstead for about 22 years. And so I really wanted to join this commission because I wanted to kind of see the town continue to move forward and kind of help be part of, you know, making it great, and sounded like something that would be fun to do.
Thank you. So hi everybody. I believe I've met most of you, but my name's Josh Kelly. I'm the new town manager. Today marks month 4 months into the job. I'm also a new resident of Winstead, living now over on Meadow Street. And it's been great to be here. One of the things that I started out with when I first came into the job was taking a look at what boards and commissions we have, what's been active, what has been inactive, what we have ordinances that, that enabled these commissions to be active. And I saw, of course, that the Conservation Commission hadn't met in quite a while. So it was one of my missions to see this group back up and running. I hope that you've all brought some ideas to the table and that you'll continue to cultivate those over the course of this meeting and all those that will come. And I'm really here to help, like Mike said, make that vision a reality. So thank you all for taking the time to make this a part of your lives. I know that that's sometimes difficult, and thank you for being here today.
I'm Mark Izzy. I work in the energy sector. I volunteered for the Energy Commission, which turned into this. I'm hoping there will remain an energy focus in this commission. I've never served on a commission before, so I'm here to listen and learn.
Very good. And I'm sorry,
And
Pam.
12 years in Worcester.
Excellent. Pam, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody as well?
I'm staff for the town. I support the land use department. I've been here just about 6 years. I also support the building department, and I'll be taking minutes for your meetings and whatever else the commission may need.
And just a quick question for you, Jen, and anybody else who's served on the Conservation Commission in the past. I'm wondering if, as part of these introductions, you wouldn't mind telling a little bit about the past efforts of this group, and where you see our next steps being. Obviously, some of them will be discussed during today's meeting, but especially the historical focus, I think, would be a helpful insight for those of us here who don't have it.
So I think the group has always been sporadic. So a long, long time ago, Rick Nolet was involved, and there was a big focus on street trees. And they actually did an inventory of like where there were street trees and where there were street trees needed. And I don't really know what happened, but that was the focus then. And then when it sort of reformed like 12 or 13 years ago, it was because the POCD was coming up and we needed a natural resource inventory for the town. So the group focused on that, and we wrote this natural resource inventory. And then we needed maps, and I brought some of them. So we worked with the Northwest Conservation District, and we had all these maps made. And so it was supposed to like help the zoning and the wetlands people, because some of them show like water resources or steep slopes or that kind of thing. But then the town hall was a little disorganized, and they sort of got lost. So I had a copy in my attic that I just found. And so then the focus became getting the POCD written. Were you on that committee 10 years ago?
No.
No, okay. So everybody from conservation kind of moved to the POCD committee, and then the Conservation Commission kind of got waylaid at that point, because the big push was to get that written.
Okay.
So
Okay. Very good.
that's what I remember.
Okay. If there was no other historical input that anybody else wanted to give, I suppose we could carry on with the agenda.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Should we dive into Sustainable Connecticut then? Mm-hmm. Very good. So I'm going to pass. There are two items within this small packet that I guess it's a bit of a thick packet. But first is a bit of a summary sheet about Sustainable CT, giving you kind of the 10,000-foot level of the program, and then a much more detailed sheet follows. If you wouldn't mind passing this down, I'd really appreciate it. Do you need one as well?
I'll take one if you have it. I love paper.
Do have an extra one, so that works out well. If you wouldn't mind taking one of these.
I like to threaten trees.
Passing the others.
It's not about the trees you kill, it's about the trees who are alive who can send a message.
So we're starting out with this conversation because it's been a push across the state, and I want to try and give you all as much of a detailed look at the program as possible. But I want to start out by saying that this is not the whole and primary reason for the Conservation Commission coming back together. It's my hope that this program, as I continue to talk about it, I think you'll see and agree with me, that this program helps provide a roadmap for all towns across the state of Connecticut to try and achieve higher and greater aspirations when it comes to conservation, when it comes to energy management, and so forth. I think that the Conservation Commission can serve in a lot of these areas as a primary conduit for action that the town can take and really help move things forward. So I'm really glad that, like I said before, to have all of you together to take a look at this and to see, is this a roadmap that we're excited about as a town to follow? And do you think that the Conservation Commission can be a major conduit for this type of activity? So I just really wanted to iterate to all of you that it's my hope that the Conservation Commission can help in this capacity, and that it will be a part of your routine activities, And certainly barring any other activities, this is always something that you can fall back to and say, all right, well, what's next? In the event, though, that there are other activities that really excite and motivate this group to move forward, I encourage you to look at those first. But let's dive into this program. Sustainable Connecticut, or Sustainable CT, is a statewide program that was launched a few years ago, and it's a partnership between Eastern Connecticut State University and the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. So one of those, the latter is a private group that individual municipalities are a part of, and essentially they act as our lobbying firm in Hartford. And they do a pretty good job. They have other resources as well that they contribute to us. They do have a regional, or they facilitate a statewide energy auction, is my understanding. They offer us a number of human resources opportunities and so forth. So it's a very comprehensive organization. And then, of course, Eastern Connecticut State University. I'm sure that if you're not personally familiar, that you have an idea of some of the things that they work on.
Are they paid?
Sorry?
Are they paid?
Are the staff
The
members at
commission.
Sustainable?
The first group that you talked about that launched this.
The
Not the
CCM, the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities.
Thank you.
So there are staff members within the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, but they are not the primary motivators and movers within this program.
I see.
So this program does have dedicated staff that's employed by Eastern Connecticut State University, and they're there really to help us. That we don't pay anything into this program to participate in Sustainable Connecticut, so I just want to make sure everybody knows about that. They're primarily funded by the state and by private donors who are interested in sustainability. So this was launched by these two groups, and there are a number of different functions that it provides. First and foremost, as you'll see with this massive packet of and listing of different activities, mostly related to some level of sustainability. There are a lot of different ideas that this group has come up with, that they are hoping that municipal governments will follow in order to achieve a higher level of sustainability. Now, you'll note that Sustainable Connecticut has a very wide definition of sustainability. A lot of these items pertain to environmental remediation, environmental preservation, and so forth. But there are a number of different parts of this program and this roadmap that they provide that are not relevant to the environment. Some of them relate to poverty and homelessness. Some of them relate to economic development. And all of these things, from their perspective, help make a sustainable community. And certainly, in the event that the Conservation Commission remains a conduit of this program, it will be the responsibility of this group and for town staff to help connect you with other agencies around town and other staff members who are working on those areas of development that aren't related to environmental conservation. So I wanted to address that as well.
I'm sorry.
No problem. But this roadmap is not just something that we can, push along with without some attainable goal. It's actually a recognition program. So right now there are two levels of recognition. There's a bronze certification level and a silver certification level. And as you move through and as we can document that we've completed these actions, there are a number of points that can be assigned by Sustainable Connecticut towards the town of Winchester. And in the event that we reach that we have completed enough of these actions, we can reach either a bronze certification level or a silver certification level. I won't lie to you, there is no monetary incentive with certification. There is nothing except the fact that we are demonstrating to the public that we are taking sustainability seriously. That should motivate us towards achieving that bronze or silver status. There's no other incentive that I can offer you besides that, but I do think that demonstrating our commitment to sustainability is worth pursuing for its own sake. So that's a little bit about the certification program as it is. That does allow us to have a number of other benefits as a member town within Sustainable Connecticut. That allows anybody on this commission, as well as staff members, to gain access to Sustainable Connecticut's databases, which can allow us to take a look at what other towns are doing. So for example, I know from having worked there in the past, right before I took this job, I was the town administrator in Bolton, Connecticut. And one of the projects that they had been working on was creating a rubric to help evaluate, and really it was an update of a rubric to evaluate what plots of land around town were important pieces to acquire, either by the town or local land trust or another conservation agency, to help make connections, really, between their open spaces. So, and for other important environmental reasons. So we now have an opportunity, because they are a part of the Sustainable Connecticut program, they worked on that project and they've uploaded it to Sustainable CT. We now have an opportunity to say, well, if that's something we're interested in taking a look at, we can go download the project that they created, and we can work to reverse engineer, ask questions of them, and otherwise gain the information that they've already helped dig up on this subject. So it is a great informational resource, it's a great roadmap, and it also has a possibility, and a hopeful possibility, of making sure that we can get some recognition within the community that we are committed to improvements in town on sustainability. There are a couple other components to this program as well. One of them is funding. The Sustainable Connecticut program has a matching funds grant that they're offering right now. It's up to only, and it sounds small, $12,500. But for small community projects that are being taken on that relate to sustainability in some way, shape, or form, not just the town, but any nonprofit organization or government organization within the town of Winchester has an opportunity to apply for this matching grant to promote a project that relates to one of the actions that are described within the action overview worksheet that I gave you. So that could include the installation of charging stations. That could include the acquisition of, in this case, obviously a small plot of land, but every penny counts. That could also include items outside of environmental conservation, as we've discussed, whether it's helping promote more businesses coming into Main Street, or even things related to stormwater improvements and so forth. So there are a lot of different possibilities with this. The funding that's offered by Sustainable Connecticut with these matching grant opportunities does fluctuate over time. Since COVID hit, they've definitely ramped down from much higher matching grant opportunities. I believe at one point in time they were offering matching grants up to $50,000. And that's had to come down because private donations aren't necessarily coming as freely. But hopefully that means that they'll rise once again in the future. And certainly making sure that our nonprofits are aware of these, this grant opportunity is important, and something that I'll be working on communicating out to the public. So I don't know if you all have an interest in a public meeting such as this to go through this list and decide, and even talk about, some of these actions have already been taken by the town. Some of these actions are things that we all want to take, and some of them might seem really far-fetched. So if there's a consensus among this group that you would like to help the town pursue a Sustainable Connecticut certification, I do think that some further discussion's needed amongst this group. Whether that the initial read-through of all of these actions happens at home, outside of this meeting, or at the meeting. I do hope that you all do it, and that you all consider how this committee can be an instrumental part in moving this certification process forward. I'll end it there, but of course, if there are any questions or comments, I'm happy to help answer.
Oh, there was one on here, I can't find it now, of course, but Pam and I have always talked about bringing in an expert in LID techniques, and then inviting the Wetlands Commission, the maybe zoning, and then Highland Lake people, open to the town, but try to focus on some of the key people that we've talked about it, we just didn't ever implement, yeah.
So what's an LID technique?
Low impact development. So that's a technique like a rain garden, which allows water to infiltrate easily, that allows you to capture some runoff or any other factor that might be created by a property is being developed and land is disturbed, And LID techniques right now in the town allow you to raise your maximum impervious surface coverage, so you can cover more of your lot if you're doing some of these mitigating techniques. But what those mitigating techniques actually look like is not always super clear to a lot of people, and a lot of them have to be engineered, so it'd be good for people to
Like
actually...
forest covers, things like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's 3.8, so it's something that it would be pretty easy to start on the educational part of it. And over at the, behind the brewery, we did get a rain garden installed there where water's kind of seeping, where that waterfall is. So that's a pretty recent project that happened in town.
Absolutely, and in terms of certification, I should add that anything that has been done in the last 3 years does count towards the certification process. So like, as I maybe hinted at before, I think that with the work that has been done and is currently being done in town, it's very likely that as, whether it's this group, staff, or a combination of both, starts to really look at some of these actions and say, well, what is it that the town's been up to, and to really document that fact. Documentation's a huge part of this effort, and that's, in my opinion, from my perspective, a really good thing. That helps show where we've been, it helps pave a path to where we want to go, and it helps us demonstrate to the public that we're taking it seriously and really keeping track of things. There's a really good chance that we may have already done enough and are doing enough to reach one or both of these certification levels. So I think it would be good to start with documenting what has been done before we start to really look at what more can we take on. And like I said, that's something that, depending on how this commission feels about it, that can be done at commission meetings if you're interested. That's something that can be done as part of a subcommittee if that's more of interest to all of you. Or, of course, a lot of this work is going to be done by staff at your request.
That's what we're here for. Your tax dollars at work.
So, if we decide to start implementing something here,
Yep.
and we go through and we create the program to do it, this will happen. It won't end up in a drawer.
No, it will
Okay.
not.
Because-
I can tell you that I've personally been through this process twice now. When I was an elected official in Waterford, I introduced a proposal to adopt this program and to move it forward. And Waterford, I believe, this year will become a silver certified community. It was bronze when I believe it was applying for bronze when I departed. And Bolton last year, with my work on it, with my helpful work, worked to achieve bronze certification status. So I've been through this process before. I know I can help navigate this group, and this group can help navigate us through it again. And it's something that I'm serious about. I really want to take conservation and sustainability to the next level in Winchester. So as long as we have support and we have buy-in from community leaders just like you, this isn't going to go in any drawer.
Okay. I think a good one to look at fairly quickly is watershed management.
What
Because-
number, Willie?
Hmm?
What number?
It's 3.3.
Okay.
Because, like last year, we were in a drought. I know Crystal Lake was coming down in level. Highland Lake definitely was down in level a lot. And watershed management is a plan that, you know, it helps everybody. And, you need, all that creates an open space plan. I mean, the town owns a lot of property,
Yep.
either as far as watersheds around the reservoirs or tax properties they've taken around the lake, that you can, you know, create a big open space and preserve these properties from development.
Absolutely.
One important thing to note as the commission looks to, if preservation of land is a big thing, is considering not just the land the town owns, but also the matrix of land that is held by the land trust, that is held as state parks or held as conservation easements. Now, while there is not a singular source where we have the details on all of our conservation easements, I mean like a map
We
with
have
them on
one.
it. We do?
I emailed it to you, yeah.
Oh, that's an exciting development.
No, I emailed it to you last night.
That was the maps email. Okay, didn't get to that today. That's really exciting to know. This allows us to, and this is one of the things about if you're looking at parcel acquisition, when you identify corridors of properties where a small conservation easement or access easement would connect large parcels of forest land, that allows the easier creation of things like hiking trails that are contiguous throughout town, particularly with the creation of the Sue Grossman Greenway that's going in on the eastern side of town. Anything to continue to promote connectivity is just going to enhance the value of ongoing projects. So those are all really good things to consider if you're into the land preservation side of how do we protect our land.
There's enough property, just say around Highland Lake, that the land trust owns, HLWA owns, and the town of Winchester owns, that if these properties were all connected, you could put in, there's already a hiking trail on Winchester Land Trust property, and you could connect all these properties and put in a monstrous trail up through the woods up there. And this is all would stay on either right-of-way roads from one piece to the next, or on the three owners of the majority of the property in there. And they all connect, and you put them together in one package, and it's a big piece of property.
Intrinsically value for recreation and valuable for wildlife.
Protects your watersheds.
Very important for protecting watersheds.
Does anybody remember, I think it was Eversource, they were giving out free LEDs when they first came out, and they were also, you talked about the drought, they were also giving out like, or you could buy them really low cost LED bulbs and then shower head, like low flow shower heads, and they would have like these energy fairs, or I don't know if it's possible to still, or if you did anything, Amanda, like that at your company, like show people like this is what it looks like, and
Yes, they came in, they did a free energy audit for us, and they helped us get funding to replace all of the ballasts for the lighting systems, which might not sound like a big deal, but the facility was the size of like 3 football fields, so that's a lot of lights. And they do free energy audits still, I believe, for homeowners. If you call.
I think that's true.
so having like an energy fair where people can get that kind of info, and they might bring cheap bulbs that people could buy, or shower heads.
A lot
or-
of times they'll do that as a giveaway just to raise awareness, you know, free. But, I mean, I don't work for them, so I can't speak for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did a light giveaway, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 years ago.
I remember that. It
It was up at, I think it was up at Whiting Mill back then.
was really popular, right?
Yeah, it was popular. I mean, we gave out everything we had.
Involved in that, because the property where the Red Barn is,
Yeah.
burn fields, and that's already,
Huh? No, absolutely. So in some ways, that
This is
kind of
where we
thing
had it,
is
in their
certainly
big
how
room
we
up
see
there.
What was it?
the Little Barn,
It was,
one thing. You'll notice a lot
Had to
of
do
this
with
place
LED, and discounts on lighting, you know, if you bought a light, you got it for a certain price. And then probably saw it in Home Depot 3 months later for close to that same price.
Or you can generate additional value
Josh, I have a
from
question.
continuing to
Of course.
develop.
Since you've been through this a couple of times already, do you have an idea of where the town is as a baseline?
You know, I don't offhand. I have been through this many times, but not necessarily with that exact lens in mind. So what I could do for the next meeting, if it's of interest to the commission, is try and get at least, a kind of a checklist of here are the things that I believe we've done. We might need to dive into a few more to really document and to have a full understanding, especially since I'm relatively new to the community. And we can move forward with conversations based on that checklist. Unless there are other items that you really want to dive into and discuss today. Would that be of interest then? You know, kind of a quick evaluation of perhaps where we are,
Oh, certainly.
okay, very good. So that'll be on our
Those things that,
to-do list.
you know, like Little Red Barn was be part of your brownfields.
Yep,
And
Absolutely.
the Capital Products building just got sold.
yep,
That's gonna be a brownfield site.
yes.
And I don't know about the corner over here, Marty Golden's building, whether that's gonna be brownfields or not.
That might fall outside of the 3 years. Are you talking about the front building?
Yeah, the building on the
Yeah,
corner.
Yeah, hopefully,
That could be brownfields,
yeah.
yeah. And that's all things that would be supported in town.
Right.
Do you have this information? Like, does the town have the information on what we have and what we don't have, or what we've done and haven't done, or do you need to kind of reach out to maybe?
The answer is we have it. The issue and what Sustainable CT is going to help us do is put it all in one place, so that we can easily share that information and have it at our disposal. So that really will be our task is over time, over the next few months probably, pulling together documentation. Certainly I'll have a checklist for you next time that shows here's a ballpark of where we are, but we won't have the documentation all together, so that's what we'll do thereafter.
And how long does this process usually take to say, usually, like, is it an ongoing, obviously, to make the community, you know?
Absolutely. I think it needs to be an ongoing process to constantly be evaluating, are we where we want to be? What's the next step? What are our next goals? In terms of attaining a certification, there are two times during the year, usually it's September and April, when applications can be made. So for our purposes, we won't be looking to September. That's a little extreme. So we'll be looking to an April time frame for our first shot at, you know, what can we do, what have we done, and you know, keeping that in mind as we move forward. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to take too much time from the rest of the meeting's agenda, though.
There's a lot to ruminate on with this.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yes.
It's a, you know, it's a bit of light reading, in that very, very small text.
And if anybody has questions, certainly you can email myself, you can email Michael or Pam. The Sustainable CT website, though, sustainableCT.org, has a ton of information. I can get you access as a municipal contributor so that you can see what some other towns have been able to do and accomplish through this program. And hopefully that will help continue to allow you to ruminate on all of these different items.
So, Madam Chair, if there is no other further discussion, Mr. Wiarda, I believe, is the next individual on the agenda to discuss charging stations, if you're amenable to moving the question to that.
Yeah, did anybody have anything else on the sustainable CT?
I just, going through this, I keep seeing a lot of things that, little bits and pieces have been done in town. And once you get an inventory of what's been done, I mean, we're gonna have a lot of points.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've got invasive species here. You know, HLWA paid to put a sign up at the lake promoting clean, drain, and dry on boats.
Yep.
That's to control invasive species. So that was a private group did that.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's gotta
Maybe
be
each,
part of your,
maybe if each of us knows of some things that we've already done in here, we could email Josh so he could start compiling things. Like John and Mark, since you were on Energy Commission, you might already know of some of the things that have been done.
I wasn't on
Oh,
Energy
well,
Commission,
John,
it's my
okay.
first
Okay,
commission.
so John,
Yep.
so maybe each of us could do that to help you,
That'd be wonderful. Absolutely.
because you're right, we each have a little bit of knowledge about.
yeah, everybody's got a little bit of knowledge about what's around.
And you're very
Yeah,
right,
we
Willie.
probably
It's
saw a
it's
lot of
not
this.
just the public agencies, it's the private agencies too. It's
Yeah.
the private companies, it's the groups like the Highland Lake Watershed Association, like your Land Trust. I have no idea what's been conducted by all of those groups, so your input's all very valuable.
Anything else? Yeah, good idea, Michael, let's move to John.
Okay, I'd like to see a little more charging stations coming up for the town, whether it be private or public. It doesn't have to be public, it can be private. I've been given the name of a contact at Northwest Bank to see if they have probably about 60 spots behind their bank. If they would, put in 10 or 15 of them towards a little charging area and have it available to anybody that came into town, that would help out. And if we extended the ones maybe in the future down at the Bank of America, they seem to get pretty charged up on a regular basis as being used. And maybe back here on the parking lot behind the town hall, it looked empty when I came in here, but during the daytime that lot is filled up. I don't know who's going to be buying charging vehicle. I mean, they are fairly expensive. The price is coming down. The big thing is they're still ramping up on the batteries. So you, compared to 5 years ago, you're like triple the size of the battery. So the mileage you can go is a lot farther. I mean, now it's like 250 miles, even on a standard Chevy Bolt or Nissan Leaf or any of those. And once they start moving up into the bigger cars, the range gets even better. And they have through it one of the state programs, the cheaper program, you can get a better discount through there than you can from the federal tax thing. Keep in mind though that the federal tax only kicks in on your federal side. So that if you have a $10,000 federal tax coming up, you can get $7,500 off for that vehicle, making your tax to the government only $2,500. Where if you don't qualify, then you're not going to get that tax credit. And things like that. And there is a EV Connecticut club for vehicle owners as well. There's a lot of information on there from people around the states. Of course, Westport is one of the biggest contributor because they have over 254 Teslas registered in town and over 1,000 electric vehicles, fully electric vehicles. So they are probably the premier #1 town in the state that's represented at all these meetings for the club. And their people have more involvement and say in it. Of course, you wouldn't when you have the higher incomes. I went to an energy fair 2 years ago and I couldn't believe the number of people that came with their electric cars from the dealers that showed up. Even the guy from Katona, New York was there. So being a Tesla guy over there, he can't sell them in Connecticut, but you can in New York. So then they want to change that so that anybody that brings a car in or wants to buy a truck will be able to buy it, even though they don't have a dealership set up like the Chevy and Ford. And the Ford Lightning is awesome pickup truck. It's just pricey right now, and but it has several hundred miles of charge. And if you need a 4-door pickup with a 6-foot bed, it's probably the ideal thing to get, because you won't be seeing even the pickup. Just because Lombard Ford has a lot of pickups on their lot, they're going to become scarce like their cars have. You don't see many cars down there anymore. 3 years ago, that lot was filled with cars. But people don't want to do that. They want to get away from the dealer having to store these cars on their lot, because they actually pay for each car that's on their lot. So that adds to the total package of the car. So they want to get away from that and go in more towards you order it, you get it in, and take it from there. And I forgot which group it is. There's a group, there's supposed to be a meeting of it with the state next month in September on a special session. What it is last year, Connecticut purchased 1.7 billion gallons of gasoline. Well, they want to cut that down to where it's like 1.2 billion gallons, and they want to cut the number of distributors out in the state. Say there's 500 of them now, well, there's only going to be 400 of them next year, and the year after that, there's only going to be 300. They also want to make it like other states, where if your gas tanks come up where they expire, you can't put new ones in or revamp your gas station. So that's gonna cut down on the number of gas stations.
Was that legislation that was proposed or approved?
Well, they're gonna start proposing.
So this is about stations themselves.
No, they'll have to renovate them or do something else,
yeah.
repurpose them for some other purpose.
Okay.
So,
Quick question. So I asked the superintendent at my school if we could have charging stations, and she said one issue is the taxpayers don't necessarily want to pay for the electricity. So you mentioned private. Can there be like private companies and you
With a meter?
yeah.
yes, what it is, there's probably a good 6 companies out there. ChargePoint, EVgo, Electrify America.
You have the app on your phone.
You'll have an app on your phone,
Yeah.
and when you make a connection, it'll tell you you're connected, and then you'll see the little green light on your car start the energy flow, and you're good to go. And right now, some of them are pretty fast. They're 18 minutes to charge a car.
So the ones that we have right now, does the town pay for the electricity at the B of A one?
Yes.
And then Hartford Healthcare pays for the electricity at their facility?
Yes.
So when you're approaching the bank, are you asking them to pay for the electricity, or could a private company come in and put the station in?
We could have a private company come in. I think it's like 2 years or 3 years. Somebody would be paying for it other than the town or the healthcare. But it should still benefit you because the cost of that kilowatt is a lot cheaper than a gallon of gas.
Right.
If a gallon of gas goes to like it is in California, some spots in California are already over $4 a gallon. So even if it hits $3.75 here, people are gonna be better off, especially if they don't drive a lot of mileage, because you always need that oil change at least once a year, even if it just sits there.
Do you have any data on how many electric vehicles are owned by registered among residents in the town?
Actually,
No, I don't.
I have that data. I don't remember where it came from, and I'm not sure if I sent
Probably
it
the
along.
assessor.
I should send it along to you, John, and
Telling
maybe to the whole.
them, the assessor?
It might have come from the assessor's office originally, but I saw it about 3 weeks ago, and it gives a breakdown of not necessarily the specifics on the make and model of the vehicles, but some specifics on the kind of electric vehicle and hybrids as well. So that's
So I think there
useful.
might be businesses, and for example, Region 7 where I teach, I think they'd be open to giving up the parking spaces if they didn't have to pay for the electricity. I think,
There's a good action item.
yeah.
Right now, Electrify America has a deal with Chevy and Jeep, or maybe it's all Chrysler, I'm not sure. But anyway, if you run on their network for the first 3 years you buy it, you don't pay anything for your electricity. So that means if you like to go on vacations and you buy one of their cars, you're set for 3 years on any interstate in the United States for free electrical charging.
You just have to find their charging station.
Well, you can find them because they have maps.
Right.
And once you get there, once you get into the system, it'll keep coming up where the next one is. Because they figure every
Right.
100 miles, you're gonna wanna take a break, or 150 miles,
Yeah.
you're gonna wanna take a break. And that's when you're gonna charge. You're gonna go in, do what you gotta do at the restaurant, or maybe bookstore, or wherever you're gonna go. And, so that's one of the companies out there, and they're a big one. And there's several others. Enel wants to get into it, because they're big in Europe. They're huge in Europe. And ABB is big. I don't know if you've ever watched Formula Racing. ABB's been doing it around the country. They just had the last one, I think, first weekend in August, the streets of Brooklyn. It's a little over 2 miles, but it's 9 turns in that. And that's quick for 70 miles to 100 miles an hour.
The electrification of vehicles is coming. It's at this point the only question is how fast is battery technology improving? Because once you can get a sedan that's got a range of about 500 miles on a single battery, and if you can continue to improve that charging speed, the benefits of a gas-powered vehicle really that it still has in charge time and total range really start to drop off. And we've seen huge improvements lately. The governor, I believe, the fleet plan for the state of Connecticut is calling for no new gas-powered vehicles to be purchased and the fleet to be 100% electrical by 2030. So it's kind of a sea change to think about the idea that, gas stations are going to just start dropping in number and a diffuse grid of charging stations just going to be in random places. You go to the library, there's some there. You go to the grocery store, there's some there. But making sure that we're out front, and it makes it easier for that transition to happen for the community. One of the things to consider with electrical vehicles is that this is going to be the hardest transition for a lot of the poorest members of our community, because there aren't pre-existing used vehicles that they can get that are electrical in a lot of ways. So making sure that it's accessible for them to charge when they do eventually start to make that transition away from gas power, it's going to be really important. It's going to do a lot of really good things for this community to make sure that this is accessible for everyone. So it's a really, really valuable initiative. If I was thinking about what this commission, if this is something you want to look at more, Mr. Wiardia, thinking about, where could these go? What are some excellent places in town, businesses or public places where these could go? Schools are certainly a place where I'm sure many members of the faculty and visitors would appreciate them. And then figuring out, are there existing plans for those companies to come in and work with those schools? And if anybody could find those or staff could be directed to, we could go and look for some of these programs. I think that would do great things for energy and for vehicles in the future.
And to answer another little part of your question, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I think there are some models of charging station that you can get where not only can you have the individual through their app pay for the electricity directly, so that the company doesn't have to, pay for it themselves. But I also believe on top of that you can add an additional fee if you so choose. Now, I'm not encouraging us to start, promoting increased costs for electrical charging around town, but in the spirit of trying to get more businesses interested, it might be worthwhile to try and bring that to their attention. The fact that really they could be even making a small, admittedly, but some money off of the fact that they have charging stations and are making that a publicly available option.
Well, there is help for both the individual and the corporate owner or a town through DEEP on their website, and they'll put up $500 for a home charging station, level 2, and they'll put up to like 50% on a level 3, which is a DC one. That's your high capacity one, and so that helps out greatly because they say it's normally about $600 for a decent one with the app and everything, and that's basically what you want, because once you get out of Winston, you can't get a free one. You're going to want to use the app. And also, Lion Electric has delivered 100 school buses to California that are fully electric, and they also have their own charging stations for those. They can put those in for any school bus. They even have 2 and 3 axle, the bigger trucks. They're starting to make those, and when you get into those chargers, you don't want a truck to wait there for an hour charging. So, and UPS and some of the others, they're going to be starting getting their electric vehicles. Amazon, they I don't know, 100,000 electric vehicles Bezos has bought, but they won't be all delivered at once. So, and then you have other people like Plug Power. They'll be putting out their fuel cells probably in the next 2-3 years. They use a lot of them in California warehouses. Because their tow motors or the little forklifts are small. You don't need a big monstrous device. And you don't need a lot of hydrogen to run for a day, an 8-hour day. So, but they're coming, and they will be here. I don't know how many are in town, but there must be a few of them around. So,
I get that information from the assessor.
Anyone have anything else on the charging stations?
Is it our intention to continue to pay for people's charges? Why,
Sorry, what was
why, these ones that are here, the 4 that are here,
Yeah.
I understand that the health center is paying for the, Hartford Healthcare is paying for 2 of them,
Right,
right?
right,
We're paying the bill on the other 2?
right, on the
Why,
bank.
why? Why
Well, it's an
are we
incentive,
charging people's cars for them?
it's an incentive to get people into the electric car mode.
I see,
Eventually, that will go away, that program.
okay, yeah,
And
that's good.
you'll have to start paying down there. But it's not gonna, they're not gonna turn a switch off tomorrow. And, you know, that would turn a guy off from his electric car. But they're gonna, when
From a
it
free
comes-
fill up? Yeah,
when it comes near that time, the town should be announcing it when they, you know, hey, the 3 years is up, in 6 months, we're gonna be moving so that,
so that was an initiative that we
Right.
took to, but,
Right.
did we put those charging stations in the bank?
yeah, the town did.
The town did? I see.
Yeah, they cost us about $3,000 for the 2 of them.
Okay.
That's with the electrical, because we didn't have a contractor that works for the town.
The other thing to note is that those are located at the Bank of America building, which currently the town owns. It's not necessarily the town's intention to, not making a statement one way or the other, but it is possible in the future that that building does not belong to the town. So that's something to bear in mind as we go forward, that obviously that might become somebody else's responsibility in the event that, that should change hands.
So they or the town could call one of these companies and they would sort of take over the charging station and you'd have to pay for it? Is that what would happen, or?
Effectively, yes.
Right.
Okay.
That's the short version, yeah.
And you could you could get a hold of somebody like ChargePoint or one of those others and say, hey, we're thinking about putting 50 stations in multiple locations around the town. Can you come up and give us a quote? Or send a representative up? Or you draw up that on the schematic of how many you want, what do you want? 8 of them at the Beersley Library, and say you want some somewhere else, and the town garage needs 2 down there for their electric vehicles. Because I'm sure they're gonna be switching over, not tomorrow or next week, but in the near future, they won't find what they want, so and that the group that drives students around, that they put a lot of mileage on. They go into Hartford, you know, it doesn't cost a student anything, that I know.
Jen, before we dive into the next section, I just wanted to let everybody know I do have to run. Unfortunately, there are a couple of staff members that I need to connect with before their day ends. A couple pressing matters came up. But I do really want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for being part of this conversation. I did already speak with both Pam and Mike about my availability to be here for future meetings, so you can both speak to that. I hope that you have a great rest of your day and meeting.
So if we move to number 6, did anybody come to the meeting with ideas about like what they envision the committee doing, or something you had in mind?
I was hoping to learn what the committee is up to, but I didn't have any ideas for it.
So I don't know if we have one, but I was kind of thinking about maybe possibly like a community garden or something, or maybe looking into something like that, like maybe like within the town area. I don't know if that's something that would be feasible to look into.
There's actually funding. I've been looking for locations for years. There is a community garden, but it's in the middle of nowhere. It's up on the top of Wallens Hill.
Oh,
And I don't
okay.
even know how you get a spot or what, I have no idea how it works,
I
but.
think one closer to town
Yeah,
would
absolutely.
be beneficial for a lot of residents.
And
that
there's
are-
funding through the state, so if we could find a location, it'd be pretty easy to write the grant to get the.
One of these properties we require to blight. Like
Yes.
You know, we had talked that they're very small parcels, and we've demolished the home, and right now they just are, you know, not necessarily a straightforward plan with them, but, you know, we had talked about neighborhood parks, but that might be the perfect location if it's in a dense neighborhood. It's excess land where you could designate that as a community garden area.
So how would we go about finding like that?
Oh, we
land or
can.
something? You can,
Yeah.
okay.
So, I mean, that could be a future agenda item that we
Like, you could make a list and we could go on a field trip or something.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be good.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
Field trips are fun.
Yeah.
What's the status of the land down near the water treatment plant? I heard there's like 50-something acres down in there.
Are you talking about the water that surrounds the water body on which this water treatment plant is?
Wait, sewage treatment or filtration? Water filtration?
Oh, maybe it's the filtration. It's down here on North
Oh,
Main.
that's sewage treatment.
Oh,
I don't think
sewage.
there's that much land. I don't,
No, there is.
There is?
Yeah, and the police department uses it currently, the back of it, for a shooting range.
Oh.
For a training facility, they do more than just target shoot.
And there's
They
been some
train.
talk about a dog park on some of that land, right?
Well, ECAT is over the other direction, so there was.
No, I think he means like a public back park, right?
Yes.
Facebook,
Oh.
there's social media, local folks have talked about, we needed, Granby has one.
And then one more thing I wanted to ask about is, and I don't know if we would have anything to do with this, but extending that walking trail, is that
Yes.
in the works? Is that are we
Yes.
running in, like,
So,
what could we do?
There's a bunch of entities that are trying to extend contiguous walking trails right now. So there is, coming off of the Greenway, it's called Fit Together, which is the area, it's a health and wellness organization that's trying to promote healthier activity and making it easier to walk. Right now, if you go through the heart of town and were to continue on up in that direction, you would wind up passing the dam, the dry dam, right, in that the Mad River Conservation Area. That whole area right now, with just a couple connections made, would become very, very walkable over the old Route 44, and that could be through the heart of town, connected to the Sue Grossman Greenway very easily. There's also a couple of very large parcels of parks that are located in the north of Torrington, which through the acquisition of various properties or easements in the south of town could be made easily connectable to Platte Hill State Park. So depending upon how things are envisioned, particularly with, thank you for getting me that map because it was one of my pet projects in another community, is if you have a map of all the places that exist, what you can do is you can keep an ear to the ground on property sales or find out who owns various things and say, hey, would you be willing to grant the town, purely just inquiring, some sort of a conservation easement over this, help us connect more greenways. And so as you start to network within the community, you can start to create these walking corridors that let you go from north to south and east to west and contiguous walking. So there are some things happening with, organizations at a higher level than the town, but a lot of that can be taken on by this commission of just, hey, I was out talking to somebody and I was looking at a couple of properties down over here, which I think are really interesting and easy to connect. This is what I think, is this something worth pursuing? What's the process to go about that? The commission thinks it's good. They can kick it to staff. We can go and inquire what would the actual legal process be. We can come back with reports and move from there. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, definitely we can start to get you some of those maps, and you can start looking around at what are some of the best places to connect. Awesome. I will do that.
Does anyone else have any ideas for number 6?
There's one pet project that I have that I think Mr. Gizzy might actually be interested in as an energy guy. Since I arrived in town, one of the things I've most noticed is the tops of a lot of the buildings on Main Street are very flat, which means that if they are structurally able to support solar panels, particularly because there is nothing on the south side of Main Street that would provide any sort of cover, the possibility for a diffuse grid is there could be good potential here. Now, so a lot of these buildings are older, so it's not necessarily certain that they would be able to structurally support the added weight, but if the commission's interested, I would be willing to look into that. Just from a standpoint of, I think dispersed electrical grids are a generally good idea. despite Connecticut's lack of proclivity for things like tornadoes, it's nice to have backups and more ways to generate electricity. So
Yeah, microgrids are
Yeah.
definitely the way of the future.
So-
And don't we have a 14-acre solar panel project going in on
Yes.
150?
Yep. So that's going in over on Platte Hill, not far from Platte Hill State Park. So
I
there's
see.
progress being made. There are plans in the office if you ever want to come down and look at things.
Well, I would. What I understand is it's 5 acres for 1 megawatt, thereabouts,
So it's gonna be just under 2
of
megawatts.
production. Right, this one is under 2.
Yeah,
Yep.
1.97. 1.97, it's just under 2, because I think when
I
it's
see.
more than 2, it's a whole different
Permitting process.
with Pura.
So I work for a company that has, that builds fuel cells. And one of the things that I was thinking, it may be too grand of a scope, is we supply fuel cells for many of the wastewater sewage treatment plants in the state of California. And what they do is use the naturally generated methane from the sewage treatment process to fuel the fuel cell. If you don't know, fuel cell doesn't burn anything, so it's ultra low emission. And not only that, but it generates a lot of heat. The chemical fracturing process that takes the methane down to its elemental components generates electricity, generates heat, and hydrogen can be separated and captured and stored and saved, which most of the water treatment plants in California use for a fleet of hydrogen vehicles as well. So there we have these things in hotels where O2 is captured off of the fuel cell and pumped into greenhouses for hotel restaurants. The possibilities are endless. So it's on a rooftop. I like that idea. Cutting down more trees, I don't like that idea so much,
Right.
because we could do what that solar field is doing in a double tennis court.
Well,
area.
I'm sure that potentially Public Works or Sewage Treatment are just talking to Josh and they'll connect you with the right person. Might be interested in hearing about the work that your company does, because if that can bring more green energy to Winchester, it would be worth it to know what the process for that would be, what the cost for that would be. So I'm certain that he would be interested in hearing about that more, because I know I am.
Is there like a?
Alex, right? The guy at the sewage, is
Yes.
that the?
Yes.
Thank you, Pam.
Does our sewage treatment plant, is it big enough to generate enough methane to make it worthwhile? Or is there like some
Oh, that, yeah, I
minimum
don't,
size or,
that I don't know.
I don't know yet.
yeah?
Yeah.
That's very.
Well, Freund's Farm, they run their farm off a methane digester. And they kick out a megawatt into Canaan for that.
There used to be a farm in Bethlehem that did biogas as well, and I used to run my diesel on biogas when I was in Washington State and Los Angeles as well. There's a co-op. It might be nice. And the other thing that I was thinking is I had no idea that there were charging stations in town. Can we not advertise? Maybe a sign somewhere?
Yeah, I'll try and get that.
You know, also putting it like on the Gilson's website, like you could walk 2 blocks and get to the Gilson, right?
Oh.
Right.
And charge your car or something
Right.
like
Take
that.
that as an action item.
Well, you could
Okay.
even go to the church down there, people up at church and just
Thanks,
cross the
Amanda.
street,
You're
park your
welcome.
car.
Yeah, I had no idea we even had that capacity here.
Awareness is always something which municipalities can struggle with, of just letting people know what's going on in their town, because there's so many things that are done that people just don't know to take advantage of. Big fan of awareness. So at any time, if it's, I didn't know that existed, and that becomes a sentiment in the community.
Maybe the town, could it be on the town website too?
Oh yeah, we can get that out there.
Yep.
Pushing forward on
I
that.
think it's on the COG. The COG was supposed to put that on their website.
I'm
I don't-
sorry, say it again?
The Council of Governments.
It's a regional,
Yeah.
21 town or 22 towns that all belong to one group and they meet in Goshen. I don't know if it's one, huh?
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
Council of Governments.
Say, what,
It's the Council of Governments.
thank you, COG.
The-
That
yeah,
wasn't coming through the
like-
masks.
Like a little gear in a machine.
It's kind
Yes.
It kind of is by the county, but not necessarily, but basically it's county and they pool resources, so, you know, it's a network. You know, if town-wise, if we have a question on an ordinance, you go, they're the regional plan that they put out of, you know, they have a very large focus right now on improving, internet service for Litchfield County.
I see.
So, you know, that's one of the things that they're working.
Wait a minute, they came and pitched the EDC. Did they not?
Oh, maybe with the 5G and the.
Right, that's the part I'm remembering.
Yeah, you know, that's definitely a
Wireless.
priority right
Sorry.
And then Caitlin and I went to the the five-corner gallery or whatever that is.
5 points, yeah.
Five
Five
Point
Points
Gallery.
yeah.
And they did a pitch down there as well, it was mostly about us kicking in for better internet service, right?
I think, aren't they up at the old Yukon, 5 Points?
And go,
Both, they're.
But yeah, they're
downtown.
there.
I think they have
They're
some
there
kind
now,
of
yeah.
an educational program up at the old Yukon.
Indeed,
so-
yeah.
Okay.
So before we get to the meeting schedule, I want to thank Michael and Pam, because I sent like this really rough agenda and someone made it look beautiful, and then Pam, you're doing the minutes, that helps a lot for us to meet. But I was still wondering if anyone wanted to be the chair of the committee,
Do what?
to be the chair.
So Jen doesn't want to be the chair, is what she's getting
Trying
at.
to get out of it.
And so if anyone wants to step up at this time, or if you want to take a couple more meetings, I don't know how you feel, but just if everybody's kind of worried about jumping into it, being the chair is not as scary as it might first seem. You have staff to lean on if you ever have questions about procedure. This is not the kind of commission that winds up, you know, with a whole bunch of angry people before it most of the time. Wetlands and planning and zoning, those commissions, people get very heated. This is not that. So there's no fear of having to be the person who's, you know, in a confrontation with somebody. It's pretty laid back, and it's a good opportunity to learn procedure if you want to. But no pressure from me. Pressure from Jen, maybe. I won't speak for you.
Well, I would be interested in participating alongside you for a few more meetings, just to get my feet wet.
All right,
That would be.
thanks, Amanda.
You're welcome.
I would like to make, back a number of years ago, when Rick Nolet was chairman of the Energy Commission, we went and did a survey of how many meters for the electricity we had in town. I think it came out to a little over 4,000. Loretta Trombley was secretary back then. And so Winston was using a lot, and I think we found out that the biggest hog for electricity was our sewage plant. So if we could get anything in there other than
Like the fuel cell
electricity from
idea.
Pura or Eversource, that would be a big help. That's why I was always in, I don't know what was going on in that field, now you tell me the police department, but I was thinking if we had a solar thing up there, if we could take the solar, use it for the sewage plant, and anything extra would go into backup, like Google does in Alphabet. So when you do when you don't have a sunny day to pump out energy for the sewage plant, 'cause that's like $156,000 a year, that one unit.
The good news, what Mark was talking about, the solar that's going up on Platte Hill, it really, in a lot of ways, doesn't benefit the town and does cut down a lot of trees. So I agree with you on that, but the town is gonna get a reduction still, right, in electricity costs because of that project,
Net
so.
metering credit is what they're getting. so
Is that called
they're-
that Z-Rex?
What's that?
Is that called that Z-Rex thing?
I'm not sure that term, but they're gonna be a beneficiary of the power that's generated
enormous amount of the back half of that lot into a conservation easement, which
Well,
is.
they're actually donating it to the land trust.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
about
So they're making
75
use of it for
acres.
sharing. Very
Well,
The whole thing, 150, I thought
It's
I saw?
100 acres.
100
They're
acres?
donating 75,
And then turning the 14 into, and there's a
and then they have a
10-acre balance
road and they
somewhere,
have,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
whatever.
You
Yeah.
may be getting more than you even thought.
Yeah.
Because I think they only want to hold on to, because they get taxed on what they own. So they only want to get taxed on as little as possible that they need for, the area of the solar. And then the rest of it, they have no use for.
I mean, they're gonna get a tax deduction and everything.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
but they are donating the land, so.
Is this one of these little boutique power companies?
Yep.
That bought all the acreage from where? From whom? Do you
It
know?
was an old
Yeah.
subdivision plan.
It was Tradewind Farms, it was an LLC, and one of the principals of that LLC was the design engineer, who, prepared everything that was necessary for that subdivision. So, he had an owner stake in it when the subdivision was approved in 2005. And, in some respects, I'm with you with, the cutting trees down in the name of conservation. However, post-COVID, and we don't know how long it's gonna last, you've got people looking to build and develop where the, vacant piece of land, like a crazy spots that really, but
They could have
because
been
of the housing
24
market,
houses,
so.
actually, so.
That
Well,
was
this
never
is
got
better than that,
constructed
yeah.
because of the costs of development, putting a road in, and, you don't make your money until the end of the subdivision, and I don't think, when the market fell out, and then, is there really a market for all these expensive homes? Well, yes, now there is. So, you might have had homes,
Right.
when they first started talking about this was before COVID, and I was disappointed too, to think that they're gonna, I'd rather see solar going on top of,
Roofs.
hardscape already, that has no impact.
Right.
But you could have, based on what's transferring and what people are talking about for developing, it probably is a very real possibility. You could have had a subdivision in there soon, based on how hot the real estate market is.
Understood, yes, thank you.
Okay, so going to number 7, is this a good time and place and, yeah?
So the regular meeting schedule, we need to publish those so they become regular meetings as opposed to special meetings. And the commission should have a regular meeting schedule. So does 5 p.m. on a Thursday work for everyone going forward? Okay. The only request that we've received from Josh Kelly is that instead of meeting on the 3rd Thursday of the month, we go to the 1st or the 2nd Thursday of the month because the 3rd and 4th Thursdays are other pre-existing commissions of architectural review and it's the one that approves everyone's hiring. Civil service, thank you. So those are already meeting at this time on different days of the week, and they don't always meet, but the town manager has indicated that he'd really like to come to these meetings, particularly because of his investment in sustainable CT and the sustainability of the town. So if the commission would, if this time works and this day of the week works, would the 1st or 2nd be acceptable, generally?
I'm fine.
I prefer the second.
I can do either.
Second Thursday of the month?
2nd Thursday of the month?
Yeah, I can do that.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll just quickly run through and I'm gonna write down the days that this will be, just for everyone's record. So that would be looking at September 10th, October,
September 10th?
sorry, September 9th. That's a Friday. I know my different days of the week. September 9th is a Thursday. The 2nd Thursday of October is the 14th. November would be the 11th.
Which is
Veterans Day.
So you may want.
We could do the 4th in November instead.
Sure.
I will publish all of this online. December 9th. January, a new year, January 13th, February 10th, March 10th, April 14th, May 12th, June 9th, and then July 14th.
I'm gonna miss that meeting, it's my birthday.
We can do that. And it would be August 11th. So I'm gonna
So
just.
what did you say for April?
April, we would do the 14th.
So, I don't know if, it's the night before Good Friday, if that matters.
Holy Thursday. We could tweak that one. I'll circle April 14th and July 14th.
Don't circle July
Um,
14th.
What was June?
June I have is the 9th of June. If you want to get out of it, I'll leave it on that day. That's fine. Okay. If all those days work mostly, then that's what we'll do for the calendar, and I'll get that published as our calendar of regular meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Amanda.
So, if there's nothing else on the agenda, suppose that we can move to adjourn.
Just one quick question. Has anybody ever heard of solar and sheep farming?
Yes,
You have?
I've seen pictures of it.
You have sheep on the same place you have a solar farm?
No. I was just catching an article on it, and it said it's being done in the Farmington area.
Interesting.
And I thought that was pretty unique.
It's cool, yeah.
I didn't catch it. Did you make a motion?
I don't know if a motion was made. If it's unanimous, I believe parliamentary procedure says we don't have to move to adjourn, but we can. If you want to make the first motion, if anybody wants to.
I think it should be Amanda.
Move to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay? Okay, you know what? That's a pretty unanimous move there. I spend a lot of time listening to people talk about parliamentary procedures, so I'll have you all.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you all. This is a great first meeting. We've got a lot of points. Look at those maps tomorrow. Now I have to run.
Cool.
Did Terry take it or Shaw?
Shaw probably took.
I'm gonna ask him to send me one. All right.
I will see if Terry does have a copy, because I'm trying to take everybody's vote.
Where do we
But she
keep
just won this
these?
year and got Howard
I'll
for it.
grab them, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Dale.